Welcome to the Canaries in the Coal Mine video. I am the manager of the Early Detection and Prevention team at the Victorian Legal Services Board. I've worked for the board for 5 years, and prior to that I worked in private practice as a lawyer. You'll be hearing from Christine Bell, who is our Trust Account Analyst and has been working with the board for over 25 years. Shalene Smith will also be talking, and she is our Trust Advisor and has been with the board for nearly 19 years. When you contact the board, it's likely that Shalene will be your first point of contact. We refer to this presentation as the Canaries in the Coal Mine for a good reason. It's a metaphor, and it relates to a time when caged canaries provided miners with some advanced warning of danger. The coal miners carried a caged canary into the mine, and the canary would succumb first if there was any hazardous fumes. In a similar fashion, we rely on you to provide us with early warning signs, indicators of trouble, regulatory breaches within the workings of a law firm, and barrister clerks. As external examiners, you support our work in a number of ways. You help us protect consumers and support the profession. You are a key investigatory link between us and the law firms. You educate lawyers and help them to comply with the rules. You advise us about any problems with record keeping so we can decide what action to take. You are our eyes and ears.
The trust year ends on the 31st of March, after which law practices and external examiners are required under the Uniform Law and Rules to lodge their documents. Part 8 Law Practice Confirmation. This is submitted by law practices and approved clerks and must be submitted online by the 30th of April. Part B Statement of Trust Money. This provides a reconciliation of the different types of trust money the law practice or approved clerk hold. Again, this is submitted online and must be submitted by the 30th of April. And finally, we have the external examiner's report. This is a statement that provides an opinion by the external examiner that the law practice or approved clerk records are compliant and true in compliance with the uniform law and rules. This must be submitted online also by the 31st of May. If you have any other inquiries, you can look for a new inquiry form available on our website.
Law practices and approved barristers' clerks who cease to be authorised to receive trust money still need to have their records examined. This applies to any part of the trust year in which they were authorised to receive trust money. Law practices or approved barristers' clerks must also lodge examination reports for each examination year and any remaining period during which they continue to hold trust money. These reports must be lodged with us within 60 days after the end of the relevant examination period. Final examination reports are completed using a manual form available on our website. We can also provide you with a copy directly. Just send us a request through our EE inquiry form. It is very important for EEs to update us at the end of the law practice and a clerk's time. We need to make sure that this conduct, if any, doesn't follow through to the new law practice or clerk.
The information that we receive from EEs helps us build a picture of how law practices operate in Victoria. As a regulator of the legal profession, we have a very clear mandate. That is to protect the community and the reputation of the legal profession. This requires us to intervene as early as possible when we do see issues and do our best to mitigate the potential for harm to the consumers of legal services. How do we do that? We work to empower consumers to know that the people that they trust with their problems, and often with a lot of their money, will deal with that responsibility properly. We educate the profession about what good, ethical legal practice looks like and respond when we know that lawyers aren't meeting those expectations. We are a risk-based, intelligence-led regulator. That means we don't focus all our attention on areas that don't help us fulfil our mandate. We obtain our intelligence through a variety of ways. Keeping accurate trust account records is arguably the most sacrosanct area of a lawyer's professional life. So we know when a lawyer is not fulfilling their obligations around trust funds, they're likely to be failing in other areas of their practice as well. We ask EAs to communicate every breach of the uniform law. That doesn't mean we intend to take action about every breach or every issue that's reported to us. We do it because we need a clear picture not only of what's happening in this particular law practice, but what's happening in the profession as a whole. We use that data and intelligence that you gather to help us understand the gaps in knowledge within the profession so that we can take steps to remedy the situation, not just for a few law practices, but for the clients they work for. For example, we send regular commissioner updates to the profession about issues or trends that we see from those reports. We are working with CPD providers to ensure that gaps in lawyers' knowledge are addressed through professional development. Occasionally, this data will also demonstrate that certain rules need to be reviewed, as compliance with these regulations is difficult due to changes in the way that we work. It informs us how we talk to lawmakers, to banks, and to the consumers of legal services. But these tools are only as effective as the intelligence that we receive. If we aren't told by EAs that there are issues with complying with these rules, we potentially won't take action to address these problems before they become real issues. When we make a decision to take a regulatory response to the matters raised in an EE report about a specific law practice, it'll be based on a range of factors that's not always clear to an external examiner. These include current complaints about a law practice, particularly if there are any allegations about the way the lawyer has handled trust money. It includes matters that the lawyer or the staff has self-reported, how they've kept their trust records in the past, including reports of previous deficiencies, irregularities, non-compliance with SDA obligations, and their overall practice history. So, what happens when you report an issue with a law practice that we need to respond to? If the law practice's end-of-year examination reporting has not been lodged, it affects the principals of the law practice who will not be receiving their practicing certificates for the following practicing year until the relevant parts have been submitted to us. If an EE report demonstrates that there are breaches, we will usually contact the law practice first and ask for information or documents. If the matter is serious, we may arrange for a trust investigator to attend to the law practice. The possible outcomes are that the matter is resolved, the matter is referred to our disciplinary team, conditions might be added to a practicing certificate, education might be recommended, a bookkeeper might be engaged, or, in the most extreme cases, trust authorisation might be removed, or the law practice is disciplined. For example, an external examiner recently brought to our attention some issues within a law practice trust account that has since uncovered systemic, calculated, long fraudulent behaviour against some very vulnerable clients. Without the external examiner, we may not have identified the fraud for a significant amount of time. But because they raised their concerns with us, we were able to take immediate and decisive action, which ultimately led to the lawyer facing serious disciplinary action. And that's why we sincerely appreciate your role as external examiners. It has real, tangible outcomes for vulnerable clients.
It's time to talk you through some parts of the EE report. The section number and description of the breach. LSB Online will provide you with a list and description of the Act rule breach at the highest level, but the section number doesn't flow down to the individual subsections. For example, with the payment rule, the list will only show Rule 43 method of payment. It will not give you the option of 1C1. In instances where there are separate breaches within the same rule, you can just list them separately. Extent of the breach. This is basically where you detail how bad the problem is. For example, you may identify that reconciliations were not completed. If it was 11 months out of 12 and they were all completed on the day before you turned up, you can say that 11 out of 12 on the day before my visit. If it was just, say, January and the reconciliations were not done because the law practice was shut over the Christmas New Year period, then just say that. If the breach relates to receipts not being written up in a timely manner, use the descriptive words to paint the picture to me of the extent of the problem. Maybe a number or a percentage, or say a few, a couple, receipts not written up in the time frame. The explanation. This is what the law practice did wrong. Some examples include the bookkeeper resigned, they changed to a new accounting system, upgraded from a manual system to a computerised one, there were no balance in the trust account, and the trust balance didn't change throughout the year, or they just forgot. The outcome, this is what the law practice has done to resolve the problem. For example, if it was the reconciliations weren't completed, then say they were completed, but maybe they appointed a bookkeeper. Comments relating to no financial loss are not relevant in regard to a trust account holding money. Materiality does not apply to trust accounts. If there is a deficiency, even if it is a mistake, the issue then needs to be resolved and the money restored. Explanations such as a new accounting system, deficiency restored, bank statements are now checked weekly, receipts are now written up daily. If you don't believe that the law practice has taken any action, then say so. Some other things to be aware of is our office does not require a copy of your assurance report. This is a document between you and the law practice. All issues and breaches that you raise in an assurance report need to be included in your final EE report. You are not required to calculate or confirm the SDA or its balance. Any change of law practice, address, contact details need to be logged through our website and not put in the final comments. Only practitioners who hold a current or deemed practicing certificate then operate a trust account, and this is managed from our office, so you do not need to cite the practitioner's practicing certificate. And finally, to clarify some issues with the external examiner's reports. If you get to the end and the have and have-nots are only showing NA, then the Part A is wrong. If you get to the end and the Part B information, for example the signatories, is incorrect, then they should be restarting the Part B. The examiner's report needs to state your opinion. I can't tell you what your opinion is. However, for example, if 12 months of reconciliations aren't done, then they should equal that the records have not been kept or that the records were unable to be reviewed. We strongly recommend using our external examiners checklist, which has been developed by the designated local regulatory authorities to help you carry out your examination. The checklist includes a series of tests designed to ensure compliance with the bookkeeping practices prescribed by the rules. These tests require a yes, no, or not applicable response. A no response may indicate a breach of the legislation which needs to be recorded in the relevant section of your report. All breaches, however minor, must be notified. Your examination must be completed using relevant sampling techniques, observations and inquiries. That way you can form an opinion as to whether the accounting records have been maintained in accordance with the legislation. That is why the checklist is so useful. It's not mandatory, but if you don't use it, you will need to demonstrate and explain your approach, and we would expect you to complete and retain similar documents to support the work that you complete anyway. So the easiest thing to do is just download the checklist from our website and you can use it as the basis of your report.
We want to know what you know about the law practices that you examine, but we appreciate that it's good to have some guidance about this. We want to know about reconciliations not done, and we want to know how long they're not done for. We want to know about unpresented checks. We want to know about adjustments on reconciliations, especially when there is an unknown amount in the bank statement. We really want to know about dormant balances, and that's when the last transaction on the ledger is over 12 months old and it's not a current matter. Dormant balances are a concern to our office, and we've taken steps to monitor law practices who have not dealt with their dormant balances properly. At the moment, this office is dealing with a law practice where the last transaction on the file was 1993. We want to know about all deficiencies that are breaches. They are not administration errors, then they must be notified to our office. We want to know about deficiencies or irregularities that are not being referred to our office. We want to know the reference number, which might be our L&Q number, and we want to know that the law practice has reported it to us. We want to know about ledger accounts in the name of the law practice that might be known as buffer accounts, and make sure that any transactions relate to the last month. There are still around 25% of law practices that prepare their records manually. They can either be prepared manually or using a computerised accounting system as long as the records are properly kept. Word, Excel, MYOB and QuickBooks all cannot be used because they allow the transactions to either be deleted or altered. Statements need to be sent to clients on 30th of June. This is a breach that tends to slip the minds of law practices as the end of trust year date is on the 31st of March. One of the most common issues, and one that you're probably hearing about in a lot of different areas, is the issue of cybercrime. Unfortunately, we are seeing an increase in cybercrime attacks on law practices, and particularly on trust accounts. It's really important that law practices are mindful of their obligations to protect their clients' information and funds from these type of attacks. There are some really good resources on our website, but also on the LPLC website that lawyers should be aware of. If you think that there is something that the law practice could be doing to prevent these type of attacks, we'd ask you to communicate that to the law practices directly or refer them to us to get some more detailed advice. Attacks made through this way need to be reported to our office, like all breaches, but also so that we can keep a record of how common these attacks are occurring and what we can do to help the profession prevent these type of occurrences happening in the future.
The statutory deposit account is a statutory requirement for the Uniform Law and Rules. It is linked to your trust account. There are quarterly requirements. The quarters are 31st of January, 30th of April, 31st of July, and 31st of October of any 1 year. To meet the SDA requirements each quarter, you're required to make a deposit into the SDA. This can be done through LSB Online, our online portal, or you can make a direct debit straight from the trust account. If you're unable to meet the quarterly requirements, you can apply for an SDA exemption through LSB Online.
Of course, we ask you not to have blinkers on when you attend these law practices. As we all know, life can throw us many challenges, and of course, lawyers aren't immune from these as well. Sometimes you might identify issues that are not related to the trust account, but can or are affecting how the law practice is running. Some of these red flags that don't necessarily relate to the legal or trust account work being done are ill health. Examiners are not doctors, but sometimes the practitioner will tell you that there are delays because of sickness. Very messy offices, or those where the private information of files or passwords sometimes are on display. Firms with a really high turnover of staff. People that are distracted because of pressures like divorce or illness. As the external examiner, you'll be very aware of these concerns when your client delays or cancels appointment for the external examination. Now, this might be a result of one of the things that I described before and may ultimately affect the trust account. In all circumstances, you can notify our office at any time of the year about concerns you have with a lawyer or a law practice. You don't have to wait until trust year end. It can just be an email. It can be using our new inquiry form. It can be on the phone. We know that lawyers sometimes ask you for support when they're dealing with these pressures. If you feel that a practice that you're examining would benefit of some support, please let them know or remind them that there are services available. All lawyers in Victoria can access the LIV Trust Consulting and Practice Management Consulting services. These services are tailored for the lawyer's individual problems, and there is access to wellbeing services and counselling services if necessary. These services are confidential and tailored to the individual needs of the members and delivered by peers and experts. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch our presentation. We hope that it's given you some really valuable insights into what our expectations are as a regulator. We really do value the work that you do. If you have any questions or concerns, you can find a lot of content on our website, or you can reach out to us using our new external examiners form, email us, or give us a call.